Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm ranking all the A-Spec cards. Again, I've done this a bunch of times, but I literally just looked and there's 9 more A-Specs than I ranked before, and of course the meta has changed. So these are going to be A-Specs that aren't out yet, as well as obviously ones that are out yet. These are only the Scotland Violet era ones, not the black and white ones, other than Master Ball and Scoop Up Cyclone, because they're pretty different. Some of them are like completely different and not comparable at all. And then some just are like I don't know. I could like put computer search on this tier list, but it's obviously not something you can play now. So it's to me it doesn't make sense. But tell me if you want me to make a tier list of all the A specs, including the old ones. But anyways, there are a lot of new A specs, and there are a lot of A specs that their value has changed, and my opinion has changed on them as well. Of course, this is just my opinion, but this is based on what I've seen, based on tournament results, my own play and experience, and things like that. But let's just hop right in and see what happens, right? So first off, I'm just gonna start with the easy ones, right? The best A spec is definitely Prime Catcher. It switches in. I'm gonna show some of them, but I'm not gonna show the ones that are out yet, or they're out now because people know them pretty well, especially Prime Catcher. It's a switch and a gust. It's an item. It's very good. It adds a lot of options to any deck it's a part of. Well, it depends on the deck. For most decks, it adds a lot of options. Some decks, it's just okay, and it's not always the A-Spec played in every deck, but it's certainly the go-to A-Spec. The other really good A-Spec is, and Unfair Stamp. I'll talk about these two together. Unfair Stamp is like Shuffle, Draw, as well as Disruption, only if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn. But Unfair Stamp is kind of like playing a supporter, like an Ione or a Roxanne. Then Prime Catcher is like playing a boss's orders. So essentially, they allow you to hit your opponent with a Disruptive Supporter and a Gust on the same turn. They both allow you to do this. They're certainly not that similar, but they do allow you to make similar massive plays that can really win you a game, because if you're up, you can just steal the game away. If you're down, you can completely shut down your opponent potentially. So this is why these two are so good. I mean, they're just useful in almost every scenario. I think Unfair Stamp's a little more like useful for bailing you out of bad hands, but also it doesn't like make these insane plays that commonly. I mean, sure, shutting your opponent down to a 2-card hand early in the game can win you the game, but also when your opponent knows that you have this, or that you could have this, so then they will just not take the knockout potentially and just set up their void state, which is, by the way, just generally a good plan to set up your void state. It's a more like defensive plan that might not always win you games. Certainly, your opponent could be too aggressive for you, but then also, like, I mean, Unfair Stamp, your opponent could just draw out of it potentially, so it might not do too much. That's why Prime Catcher is higher. It has this guaranteed insane value. Then we have, uh, let's see, where should I go next? I'll just go in order, I guess. So we got, what's this card called? We don't know the actual names, the English names of the cards that aren't out yet, but we got Precious Carrier, which says search your deck for any number of basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. And this obviously is good because it gets a lot of basic Pokemon, but it's even better than that because there's a stadium that allows you to have 8 bench Pokemon, assuming you have a Terra Pokemon in play. So keep that in mind. And we'll see if I use F tier, but we'll just say I do. So I'm going to balance it around that. I think Precious Carrier is B tier. Obviously, getting your whole bench set up is really nice. I could see it in A tier, but I definitely think there are A specs better than this. And of course, it's not out yet, so it's a bit hard to judge. Obviously, setting up your entire bench is really good. However, there are a few downsides. The one is, which is the same issue with Nest Ball and Buddy Buddy Poffin to an extent, but not commonly, is that your Pokemon on your that you get from your deck into play don't trigger their on-play abilities. Presumably, I don't think there are any Pokemon that work that way. There are things like Squawkabilly EX, though, which don't have on-play abilities that you can use. And so, Squawkabilly EX still works very well with this. A lot of people, so I said this card when it was first revealed, was like, I don't think this is like, I think it's okay, and that's still where I obviously think it is, because, you could replace, so someone said that you could replace all your Buddy Buddy Poffins with this, but one, what if this is prized? And two, like, you already have Buddy Buddy Poffin, right? Buddy Buddy Poffin doesn't set you up perfectly. It gets 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less, but this is like essentially double Buddy Buddy Poffin, but You still could just play double Buddy Poffin on your turn. That's very possible. Obviously, it's better, but to me, this is just like a strong item as opposed to like a supporter level card. When you're looking at the item A specs, you want them at a supporter level card. Prime Catcher and Unfair Stamp are like good supporters, so that's what you're looking for. Something like Master Ball is like a bad supporter, so that's why it's worse. And obviously, not all cards are comparable to supporters, but rescue carriers are comparable to a supporter that would be good in certain metagames, but in the current one, we don't see supporters like that seeing play. And the idea is that you're going to Arven for this card, so or one potential idea is you'll Arven for this card, so it's solid. Certainly setting up your bench. I think it's nice in Terrapagos theoretically, but also there are better cards in Terrapagos EX, which is the big bench deck, and there are other decks like that, but they're generally I mean, they need a Terra Pokemon. They're probably having a Terra as an attacking option. So there are some better cards for Terra decks. So I think this card's okay, though. Obviously, getting lots of Pokemon to play is always nice. And yeah, let's actually just talk about Hyper Aroma now. Yeah, here we go. And let's talk about Master Ball, the Pokemon search ones. So Hyper Aroma, search for 3 stage ones, and Master Ball, search for any Pokemon. These are within context of the meta. Some Hyper Aroma is seeing play. Well, let's see, is this going to be in Japanese? No. So it's seen play in Gardevoir. Oh, wow, this is a lot less than I expected, but I guess it's new. So Hyper Aroma searching for any 3 stage ones. At face value, it's not great, right? It's a few Pokemon. It's not a ton, and then stage ones also aren't very good right now. I've talked about this a few times. I'm gonna make a video on stage ones and talk about them because they're not in the best spot right now. But Hyperoma isn't great. It's just playing Gardevoir, so I'll put it in D tier. I definitely think it's potentially the worst ace spec. It's certainly near the bottom of the barrel. It's not unplayable, and there are certain decks that like it, but it's kind of like this big setup card. But you won't always have it. You could Arven for it, kind of like Precious Carrier, but also the upside is generally lower, and you can kind of just like you can get by without it as well. So I'm not a big fan of this card. I don't think anyone's a particularly big fan. Maybe some Gardevoir players out there really love this card. It is like nice, but it's still probably not. It's not the best ace spec in Gardevoir. There is of course Unfair Stamp. There's neutralization center somewhere here, which it might be better as well. But yeah, Hyperoma certainly a pretty solid e-spec in Gardevoir, but pretty bad everywhere else. And when I say solid in Gardevoir, it's not like the best one. It's playable, but um, yeah, and like it's not even that good in Gardevoir because they're like half the time it doesn't even get you 3 stage ones because you only play 4 in your deck. You might have 2 in play or like 1 in play and 1 prized or something. So, Master Ball is also D tier. I think I will order the tiers. Master Ball search for anyone Pokemon. It's definitely okay. I think it's a little underrated. Someone in the comments said that it was bad because it didn't allow for explosive plays, unlike pretty much every other A spec right now, which is true, and that is partially why it's bad. You know, it doesn't do a lot, but there are times when it's not like objectively bad. It like helps you out some because it's just another consistency card, and Pokemon Search right now it's like at an okay place. Not saying that we need more, but Ultra Ball is the only universal Pokemon Search card, and then you'll really struggle to search for evolutions. Because in certain basics as well, if your basic is not Buddy Pop and searchable, but not as much. But evolutions can be really rough. Obviously, if you need a lot of stage ones, play Hyper Aroma. But if you're playing a stage 2 deck, which is much more common than a stage 1 deck right now, then you could play Master Ball. Master Ball, still playing Lugia some. So it's not the ace spec now because Lugia certainly has a better ace spec, and it has multiple better ace specs, honestly. But yeah, Master Ball has value because it's a consistency booster. It's really one of 2 consistency boosters, 3 if you count Unfair Stamp. Well, no, that's not. Precious Carrier isn't a consistency. There's a few, but it's like simple. I definitely sometimes check in decks when I'm just like deck building for the first time, and then I quickly drop it. But Master Ball I think is a little underrated, but it's still not that good. Next we got what's this card called? We got Perfect Mixer. There we go. This one says search your deck for up to 5 cards, and then discard them, and then you shuffle. So this is pretty niche. You get any 5 cards in your deck in the discard, which is kind of nice. You could put this in like Lugia, but also Lugia really wants legacy energy. Honestly, I think Secret Box is pretty okay in Lugia. I mean, it's okay. It obviously, legacy energy is really good in Lugia, right? So I don't think anything's topping that anytime soon. But Perfect Mixer, like you could play it in United Wings. I think it expanded. So obviously, if you play expanded, or if you played with Battle Compressor is really good. It's somewhat niche and dependent on the other cards in the format. If we had cards like Versus Seeker, um, if like I don't know, Superior Energy Retrieval's like good, and we got Night Stretcher, so it's okay. If we had like Puzzle of Time, it might be insane, but I mean, these are like broken cards that we're not going to see again because they're too good. So Perfect Mixer is like Battle Compressor, but it's an ace spec. It's a little bit better. I mean, if you compare it to a supporter, Professor Burnett searched for 2 cards and discarded them, so it's like 2.5 times as good as a supporter, but it's not, right? So I definitely think this card is fun, right? But also I don't think it's going to see much play. Of course, we don't know what we're going to get based on these reveals. I don't think it has synergy with any of them, but I would be pretty surprised. I don't know if I'd be shocked if we don't see a card that synergizes pretty well with this, but right now I'm going to put it in the bottom of D tier. It's okay in United Wings. I don't even know if it's the best ace spec, but it's certainly solid. Next up, we got giant. What is this card called? It's the bomb card, I think. Deluxe Bomb. And this says if the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot and damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if it's knocked out, put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, then discard this card. To me, this card seems bad. I never like cards like this, but that doesn't mean that they're not good. They're like tool cards that eat up your tool spot, which not every Pokemon is playing a tool on it. Certainly, most aren't, but I definitely don't think this card is a really good card. I'll put it in the top of D tier. I'm not sold on it. I mentioned hearing people's thoughts on this card down below in the comments because obviously it does 120 damage, which is a lot, but also like it's not you don't really control it. Your opponent does, and then they could also like lost vacuum it. So might as well let's talk about maximum belt, which says you do 50 more to Pokemon EXs. This is a solid A spec. I'll put it in A tier. I think it's very no. I'll put it in the top of B tier. I changed my mind. It's playable, but not every deck's an A spec or sorry an EX, and even against EXs they all have different HP amounts. So they don't all, but a lot do have different HP amounts. So like it's not always going to be that good. Notably, it's good in Charizard or it was good in Charizard because it would struggle to get early knockouts. But now you do have the Dusknoir Dusclops line, which isn't the most consistent thing in the world. Maximum Belt is definitely more consistent because you're playing Arven. You almost have a free tool to be able to get. So Maximum Belt like feels all right, but I definitely think that I don't know. It's okay. It's certainly a solid. It's not the best tool. It's the best tool we have now as an ace spec. I think it's better than Hero's Cape. It's close though. In the current metagame, it might not be. Let's just talk about Hero's Cape now while we're at it. Well, I guess we'll talk about Survival Base. Um, so Hero's Cape, you get 100 more HP, and that's good, right? Because HP is good, but how good is it exactly? It depends. It can get lost vacuumed. It's like definitely a pretty common target of lost vacuum. Most decks that play it are like control decks, and most people are expecting Hero's Cape as the A spec from control decks. So then they're just going to lost vacuum it. Of course, they do need to save resources. You can mill those resources and things like that, but it's getting lost vacuum a lot of the time. And then also Bravery Charm exists, which to me has a lot of similar value in decks that play Bravery Charm or that play Hero's Cape, like Snorlax. Snorlax kind of likes Hero's Cape. Now it's even considering dropping it. I don't know if it usually plays it. I'm gonna check if it's playing it. Let's go to a tournament that was recently completed. That's big. Here we go. We got that's not a lot of Snorlax players. So anyways, Snorlax, and it's good. But someone said like I got a comment. Someone said it like doesn't do well in tournaments. Like it does well in tournaments. It doesn't always do well in tournaments, but no deck does. But yeah, Snorlax is still doing pretty well. Look at this win rate. This is insane. Even ignoring the tie or even counting the ties as losses, it's still a great win rate. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So it in terms of ace specs, it plays let's see. So it'd be somewhere around here. So a lot are playing Hero's Cape. Some are playing Neutralization Zone. Some are playing. How many people does that leave left? I don't know. People are mostly playing those two, unless I'm missing one. Which I probably am missing an ace spec here. But obviously Hero's Cape is still pretty good within the deck, but also like how good is it? How much value does it have? In my experience, it doesn't have a ton all the time compared over Brave Charm. But so I'm gonna put it in B tier as well. I'll put it actually above Maximum Belt. I think Maximum Belt like theoretically is really good, but also a lot of decks are just one-shotting stuff without it, so it's not super necessary. But these are like B tier is definitely playable and definitely pretty solid. I feel like B is like balanced. So then we have Survival Brace. This one is the one where if you get like hit into and like one-shotted, wait, what exactly does it say? I don't play with this card. I was doing a live stream yesterday at the time recording this, and we kept talking about Survival Brace because of these custom cards, but those aren't actual cards, so it doesn't matter. So if this Pokemon is at full HP, would be one-shotted from damage, then its HP becomes 10. If you're poisoned, you just get knocked out. If they do an effective attack, you just get knocked out. If you're not at full HP, you just get knocked out before, and then it gets discarded. So it's potentially nice in certain scenarios, but not that many snares. The snares are kind of niche. I made it sound like super possible to pull off, and it's not, but who's playing this card? All right, I'm going to put it in D tier. The bottom of D tier, actually. I think it's pretty difficult to get good value out of because it's pretty niche and it could get lost vacuumed like Hero's Cape. And I feel like you also literally can't ever get any value out of this on your turn versus Hero's Cape. You technically can in Gardevoir. Gardevoir's not playing Hero's Cape, but you could. I guess that shouldn't matter much, but Hero's Cape is it's pretty universal, honestly. It can be like penny looped. Survival Brace is not that same level of universalness, and also it just doesn't see so much play. It's worse. Not useless though. I wouldn't be shocked. Like the World Championships are coming up soon. I would not be shocked if someone like sneaks in a Survival Brace, but I wouldn't be shocked if someone doesn't either. Then we have Sparkling Crystal, I think is how it's commonly translated as, which says attacks of the Terra Pokemon this card is attached to cost one less type, one less of any energy type. So that is really good. I don't want to get too much into detail on this card. I've talked about it a bunch in the past. I'm going to talk about it a bunch in the future too. Long story short, it's really good. I think it's actually S tier. I'll put it behind Prime Catcher and Unfair Stamp. There's like so many gaps in this tier list, but they'll get filled in. This allows you to it allows you to do some pretty insane things pretty much. It's really good in Dragapult. Obviously only works in Terra Pokemon, so like you don't need this on Charizard. You can't use it on I'll just say like Arceus V-Star, like it just doesn't do anything there. But then, Dragapult is okay right now. It's not a great deck. It's like I'd say it's a borderline top 10 deck, honestly, which is pretty disappointing for where it is. It was the big new deck. But with Sparkling Crystal, it's going to be insane because you can stick this tool on and attack for only one energy. Neo Upper Energy does the same thing, kind of, but also it's a special energy, so it's hard to search out. You can't get it off of Arvin, and that's a pretty big deal, honestly. And then also, it has use cases on other things, notably with Terrapagos, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of use cases of it that I don't know all of them. Terra Pokemon are going to get a lot of help as well. You can play it with the Ogre Pawns, which is really cool. But honestly, it's just really good. It's going to enable some insane combos. I mentioned Neo Upper Energy, which is 2 energy of any type on a stage 2. This card's really niche. I'm going to put it in F tier, honestly. I think it's really bad. I mean, right now, it's okay. You can put it in Dragapult, and it's pretty solid in Dragapult. It might not be the best A spec, but it might be. Probably is. And then you can put it in like some like control stuff, which is kind of fun, but also like it's kind of weird. So I think F tier, specifically with the projection into the future on this one, it's okay, kind of bad now. It's probably like D tier right now, but in the next expansion, it's going to be F tier because it's just not very good, to be honest. It was like not F tier for one set, and then now it's back in F tier, or it will be back in F tier because then you'll just play Terra Crystal, or sorry, Sparkling Crystal, and then the New Upper Energy. Like, what are you gonna put it on? I guess you could put on Luxury EX or something, but it's not even that good there. So it is playable on Dragonfall now. So if you wanted to bump it up and now, I could see that, but also we're talking about like future cards here, or cards that are coming in the future. So then we got the other A-Spec energies. We got Legacy Energy, energy of any type, and it says that you give up one less prize. This is a pretty clear A tier A-Spec. You could argue that's an S tier, but I would definitely disagree because it has like nice impact on games. It's mostly in Lugia. I'm gonna actually take a quick look at what decks are playing. Oh, it's new, so it's not gonna see that many results. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is a decent amount of results. But yeah, it's mostly in Lugia. You can toss into some other decks. I do like it in Pidgeot Control personally, as it opens up some pretty cool options. But it's not usually played in that deck. But yeah, I definitely think Legacy Energy is solid. Giving up one less prize is nice, but you do need to use your turn attachment for the turn, assuming you're not playing Archeops. And then also, it is any energy type, but it does not work with Luminous Energy. Well, it does. Luminous Energy does not work with it, I should say. And but it does work with double turbo. It enables some like kind of cool combos, but mostly it's just really good in Lugia, and so it'll end up in A tier because it's really good in Lugia and solid. It's just a solid A spec. Then we have Rich Energy, which I forgot existed, but here we go. It's an A spec special energy. It's a colorless energy, and when you play it, you draw 4 cards. This seems really bad to me. I mean, I don't know if anyone else thinks this, but it seems kind of terrible. Obviously, drawing 4 cards is good, but and it's like a supporter, but also it's an energy, right? It's not an item. If this was an item, this would draw 4. This would be good, but it's not. It might not even be that good if it was an item that was draw 4 as an A spec. But it's a special energy. Like, what do you do with this? What, you play this with Colossus Tenacity and attach it? But then I don't know, there's supporters that I draw for as well that aren't super consistent, that are like pretty consistent, honestly. And we've seen draw four supporters in the past, and they don't really see that much play. They see niche play from time to time, but not commonly. So Rich Energy is not good, right? I mean, like, it doesn't even work with Lugia Archeops. If we see some way to loop this and essentially attach it for free, it might end up seeing play. I mean, it's not a terrible card, but also its use cases are like none. So yeah, I think I'd definitely rather pretty much every other aspect in the game over this one. Let's talk about the rest of the items, I guess. So we got a bunch here, and a bunch are pretty interesting. I guess they're all interesting to some degree, but we got Pokevital A, which, by the way, I was like looking at the cards before this. I forgot the name of this card, and it's out, so that's not a good sign. But yeah, it's Pokevital A, which heals 150. Wait, was it? Heals 150, I think, from your active or from any Pokemon. And then it can't be recovered. Doesn't work with Pokestop, which is kind of, it's the thing. I always say it. It's not that bad, but it's not good either. This aspect's pretty niche in use cases. I'm going to put it at the bottom of D tier. There's not too much to say about it. It can potentially swing games, but also it probably doesn't, right? It's probably kind of useless. It's not completely useless, though. And then we have Scoop Up Cyclone, which is exactly what it sounds like. Return a Pokemon from play into your hand. This is pretty solid. I think it's A tier. It has so many use cases. Those use cases are just like solid, not amazing. So I could definitely see it in B tier. It feels a little weird to have it above Hero's Cape, but I think that's probably fair. It's an A spec that notably is really good for it's a healing A-Spec essentially. Not exactly, it has some downsides, but it does heal. It is a switch, and it also allows you to get Pokemon you don't want in play out of play, such as like Sparkle EX or Lumineon V, which you can then just play down again as well if you want to. So I think its use cases are really good. It's definitely an A-Spec that's kind of hard to use and doesn't have insane value all the time, but generally has solid value all the time. So I think I'm a big fan of this card, and every time I've played a deck with it, it's a really fun card to use. Um, so it might be my favorite ace spike. I don't play it that much, but I should play it more. And it's really solid. It's probably the most well-rounded ace spec, and it's really stood the test of time because this and Master Ball were the old ones. Master Ball's really the I describe it almost as a filler ace spec. It's there to just present the mechanic and say, oh, this is an ace spec. It's better than Ultra Ball, yay! But it's like not that much better than Ultra Ball. So, and arguably it's worse. It's usually better, but it doesn't discredit, which could be nice. Um, then we have Dangerous Laser, which burns and confuses. This is F tier. I like it's obviously not good. It is free damage essentially, but also like it's not that much free damage, and it's like obviously bad. Like you just look at it and you think this card's not good. Obviously confusion kind of annoying. Burn kind of annoying. It's damage, but it's still pretty bad. I might play Dangerous Laser side deck on a video. It's not a good deck, and I'm just gonna like sit there like rambling the whole time. But I might do that because it's funny. But yeah, no, Dangerous Laser is something. I'm gonna move New Up. New Up Energy can't be in the same tier as Dangerous Laser and Rich Energy. But yeah, obviously it's I'll put it above Pokevital A between yeah that's fine. Dangerous Laser, it has like potentially it could like win you a game, but also like I don't know. It's not good. Then we have the ancient and future ones. The ancient drum, draw a card for each ancient card in play. This is going to be F tier. It's above Dangerous Laser. It draws you a bunch of cards. Um, no, I'm still so torn on Neo Upper Energy if it should be D tier or F tier because right now it's okay, but then it's going to become really, really useless. I'll put it back in F tier. I changed my mind again. So Ancient Drum, draw some cards, but really it's only drawing you cards if you're already set up. Ancient Box is in a place where it's not even playing that many Ancient Pokemon. I mean, it's playing some, obviously. It's playing more than any other deck, but it's only playing like 12. I think that's about right. And then more importantly, it's also playing like in what are actually in play on your bench. You're gonna have a Radiant Greninja and a Pekron EX. So at best, this is gonna be drawing you 4 cards, which is like instead of Rich Energy, if it was draw force an item, it would be good. But this isn't draw force an item. It's actually probably like draw 2 or 3. So if you're already set up, it's like good, but also you're already set up then. So why do you need this? And then if you're not set up, it's not good. So then also you don't need this because it's bad. So it's pretty bad. It's not useless all the time and might be the best ace spec for like certain ancient box decks, but it's probably not. Then we have what's this card? Future no Reboot Pod. Yeah, there we go. Reboot Pod. It's actually Awakening Drum. I think I did. It's Awakening Drum, not Ancient Drum. I often call it the wrong name. But Reboot Pod. Also, people do say Ancient Drum because it's like an ancient card. That's the drum card. So it's not the actual name, but it is a nickname that is used. But then we have Reboot Pod, which says you accelerate energies from your discard to all your future Pokemon. It's like theoretically good, but also in actual practicality, it like really struggles. So it's not. It's only 1 energy to a Pokemon, and also future Pokemon don't need like absurd amounts of energy in play. They need a few. It's really unbalanced. It kind of feels similar to Awakening Drum, where you need things to go right, except with this card you need the stars to align to get good value out of it. When you do, it's kind of insane, but like you need it early. You need to get lucky early, otherwise it's just not really worth anything. Then we have you have Secret Box, discard 3 from your hand, search for one of each type of trainer. This is definitely an A tier card. Um I'll put it like the top of A. I definitely think it's very good. I know there's some people who don't like it. I personally actually don't like to play it that much, but it is very good. It's probably the best A spec for turbo decks. It's the closest A spec we have to computer search. It's definitely not the same. It's not I don't know, it has the same like bailout of any turn kind of or any hand kind of aspect to it though. The likelihood that you'll have a hand where you don't have 3 cards in your hand, I've never seen it happen. Obviously that or with Secret Box, obviously it could happen, but that'd be really bad. But that's not super common, so that's not that big of a downside. And then obviously discarding 3 cards is not great. You'd rather discard, I mean, none or one. Or even 2 is like pretty okay. With Ultra Ball, I feel like most of the time you don't get. It's not that bad to discard 2 cards. Secret Box, it definitely feels bad to discard 3 though. Um, And then like the value you really get good value off of the supporter and the item, which is really nice. Arven's good. Ironically, it has really bad synergy with Arven because it like does the same thing, but it just ends up being a big mess. So it's good in turbo decks though. It's not like consistent. You'll just play it when you get it though. And when you get it, then you're like guaranteed to get a knockout that turn, which is nice, and guaranteed to have a pretty good board state. It is definitely a card we need to kind of not necessarily build around, but certainly be able to make use of all four aspects of to some degree, which most decks can some, but don't love it and won't always get great value out of it. But it is still a very solid ace spec. Then we have neutral. We have Big Tree card. So it's called Great Big Tree, which is like funny as a name. But once during each player's turn, they may search their deck for this wording is weird. Search their deck for a stage one Pokemon that evolves from one of their basic Pokemon in play and evolve into it. And they can search their deck for a stage two that evolves from that stage one and evolve into it. Then shuffle their deck, but they can't use it the first turn of the game or the turn that Pokemon was put into play. So it's kind of like rare candy, but like it searches out. Um, it's okay. I mean, it's a weird card. It's like kind of good. Oh, I was gonna say it's not in City Leagues, so it couldn't have seen play. But yeah, it's C tier. I think it's kind of like this one, the what's that called? The like carrier one, Precious Carrier, but also but like the opposite way. It's kind of like Hyper Aroma. It helps your opponent. It could get bumped after one turn. But it's like I don't know. It's actually not that similar to those other ones. I'm saying it like it. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's something that you could do with items, but also like it takes up it's the spot of multiple items, and it's obviously only good in evolution decks, and it's solid in them. Like, you could definitely play this in Charizard, and it has decent value, but then you do need the stage one as well. I feel like just using this to evolve into a stage one and not a stage two is pretty bad. Generally, it's not like bad if you do that every once in a while, but you don't want to play it just for that. And it's terrible turn. It doesn't do anything turn one, which a lot of ace specs don't do much turn one, but still, that's something you would like to do. There are a lot of turns it won't be very useful, but their turns will be pretty nice and definitely help you out a bunch. It's not a stadium that's going to be helping out your opponent a ton either. I mean, it depends on the matchup though, but a lot of decks won't get much value out of this, so I think it's fine. Then we do have a neutral. What's it? I always say this one wrong. Neutralization zone. It got translated differently than I thought, but it's similarly enough that I get confused. Neutralization Zone, prevent all damage done to Pokemon that don't have a rule box by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX and V, and cannot be recovered as well. So it's going to end up in C tier here. Quite simply, it's a really hard one to play. You need to know you need to have you need to know what your opponent's running, probably like realistically. Obviously, in certain tournaments you do know that, but then they know that you're running this, so then they'll play around that. So ideally, you know your opponent's deck better than they know your deck by like a lot, and then you need to like play into that. But then you can just win the game if you get the stuck into play. Like your opponent just can't do any damage to you at all, or essentially none. So it's potentially nice. You can play in Gardevoir and Snorlax. Is it the best ace spec in either of those? I'm not sure. It's like okay in Gardevoir, but but I definitely think that it's an ace spec that it's okay, right? And Gardevoir and Snorlax are two very very good decks right now. They're definitely I mean, they were the two best decks before Shrouded Fable. They are probably in my top 10. I rank them 2 and 4 respectively, and then like other decks. The other top decks are evolution or not evolution decks. They are, but they're rule box Pokemon decks. And so this will wall those. I definitely think Neutralization Zone's a solid ace spec. It's really hard to use. There are times when it might just buy you a turn, which is like solid value as well. It's kind of like Survival Brace, but like it can do more than that. But you need to kind of get, I don't know if lucky is the right term, but also you need to play really well. Which obviously to play well with any card, but you need to play like almost you need to play like insanely well to actually make this card work. But when you do, it's insane as well. You get insane value. So I think it's C tier, very different than Great Big Tree. But anyways, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, and tell me when did I forget any cards? I saw some tier lists and they didn't have all the cards. So now I think this one does. But I hope you enjoy and tell me what you think of the new cards. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video. Also consider joining the channel. That would mean a ton. Take care.